I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and today we're going to talk about John Moses Browning's breakup with Winchester. So to start things with John Moses Browning, where he first kind of came onto the scene and was noticed was for a design for a falling block single-shot rifle. Now, he had designed this with the company that he and his brother had founded, which really could just make a few guns. They didn't have any mass production capabilities. Well, one of his designs for that rifle got the attention of Winchester. And Winchester took a look at it, and they kind of liked the design. And so they decided that they would pay him a lump sum for it, and they'd be able to produce it. And that worked pretty well for him. And he started working on some other designs, basically taking the lever actions that Winchester had. They had basically maxed out what that lever action design was going to be able to do. They weren't going to be able to increase it anymore, just because the toggle link action that they had inside of it there was basically at the max of what it was going to be able to do. They weren't going to be able to put any larger cartridges in there. And John Moses Browning started working on that and came up with a new design that would allow the lever action to be able to take some larger cartridges in there. It started a whole series of lever actions with the 1886, the 1892, the 94, and the 95, all of those being iterations of designs from John Moses Browning. Every time that he came up with a new design there, Winchester would pay him a lump sum there to get it. A lot of times they would just pay lump sums for things just to keep other companies from being able to get his designs. You also had the situation there where Winchester was only making long guns. They had a gentleman's agreement with Colt to not make pistols, and Colt didn't make long guns. They only made pistols. Well, he had been toying around with the idea of this semi-automatic pistol. Now, he knew that Winchester, with their gentleman's agreement with Colt, was not going to produce a semi-automatic pistol there. But he just kind of kept working on that. When he happened to come across somebody from FN out of Belgium. Now, FN was kind of an interesting thing. It started off as a bunch of small manufacturers all based out of Liège that were making things, and to better be able to compete for contracts, they kind of all grouped together and formed FN, or Fabrique Nationale. They could all work on the same contract all together in unison and be able to go for larger things than any of them would be able to do as smaller individual manufacturers. And this was working well for them, and they had actually started to build like new production facilities there, and were really starting to run more and more as a individual company. They ended up getting into a lawsuit with Mauser over some of their stuff, violating some of Mauser's patents that they had on the Spanish Mausers, and Mauser ended up winning that, and this really ended up putting them in quite a bind because they weren't they lost one of their biggest things that they could produce, and they also were just getting financially hit, and really, just kind of wiped them out to where they did not have anything that they were producing. They had like all these new facilities and no guns to make. And so John Moses Browning was in a position to where he had like these designs that he really couldn't sell anywhere because of that gentleman's agreement between Winchester and Colt, and him basically giving Winchester the first go at anything that he made. So he basically went to them with this semi-automatic pistol, and this semi-automatic pistol, which ended up becoming the FN model 1899, is the first semi-automatic pistol to use a slide. I mean, Browning invented the slide for this pistol, and he shows this to FN. They get the samples of it. They really like it. They want to go for it. They pay him not only a lump sum for it, but also a per piece price. So basically, he got a certain amount for every individual pistol that they made. Well, this was like, man, he had not ever had anything like that before. I mean, he always got lump sums from Winchester. He didn't know you could get like a per piece thing there where they were paying him for every gun that they made. But the 1899 and other pistols derived from it ended up doing really, really well for FN, and they paid him a bunch in royalties on that. So he comes along with another design for a semi-automatic shotgun. And as he had agreed to do with Winchester, he went to them first with his design. And they looked at it and they weren't completely sure about it. They thought they may just buy it up. But Browning didn't want just a lump sum from Winchester now. Now that he knew that what FN was willing to give him, he was going to see if he could get that out of Winchester. So he asked for royalties for every gun that was made. Well, Winchester had never done this for anybody, and they basically decided that they had to take a hard line on it there and not make exceptions, because they were scared that if they made exceptions for Browning that all their designers would want to do that. And so they told him, no, we're not going to buy it. We're not going to do this per unit thing here. That's completely something that's not even on the table. We're not willing to discuss it. And that basically broke down and ended it. So Browning's like, well, who can I go to now? Well, there's Remington. I mean, Remington makes long guns. Colt doesn't. But Remington does. Let me go to Remington and see. And Remington was interested, and they set up a meeting. And minutes before the meeting, like we're talking like very, very quickly before the meeting where Browning was supposed to meet with their president, the president had a heart attack. So that basically just threw everything with Remington. Everything was just in disarray there. They weren't ready to do anything at that point. So he's like, well, okay, I guess Winchester and Remington are both not going to happen here. So he decides to go to FN with his design because they were interested in the pistol. Maybe they'll want to make something else. Well, FN was willing to take a risk on this new semi-automatic shotgun because they had never, made anything like that before. Nobody had ever made anything like that before. And they put it out as the FN Browning Auto 5, and that did really well for him. And basically from here on out, he was able to get royalties for all the guns that were produced off of his designs. He made a lot of things through Colt and through FN, basically a whole progression of that pistol that started as the FN 1899. He was able to kind of keep working on that design till it became the 1911. Really, the number of different types of designs that he made is really just quite remarkable. I mean, he had that original single shot rifle. He had a bunch of lever action rifles that he worked on. He had pump shotguns that he worked on, the semi-auto shotgun. He had modern pistols, basically developed the modern pistol with the 1899 all the way up to the 1911. He had a number of machine guns that he developed for the U.S. military. He basically invented the over-under shotgun. Nobody had made an over-under shotgun before John Moses Browning designed one. And up till he died, literally working on it at his desk there in Liège, he was designing what ended up becoming the high-power pistol. Once some others were able to finish up the design on it, that became a hugely successful pistol. So really, you've got just a ton of different things there with Browning, and probably the most diverse firearms designer ever. Basically, everybody else that's really a well-known designer had very specific things that they worked on, but he had just such a wide range of stuff that makes him really very unique and probably the most diverse designer ever in firearms history. So if you found this video interesting, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can also leave a comment and tell me anything that you think about it. And you can also subscribe to my channel to make sure that you catch all the videos that I post and not miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.